Good morning, students. Welcome to the YouTube module. In today's class, you're going to see the continuation of the lesson, The Summit by Edmund Hillary. Let's go for a quick recall of part 1 before we go to the second part. This lesson is a slight adapted excerpt from The Ascent of Everest by John Hunt. In this lesson, Sir Edmund Hillary tells us in his own words how he reached the summit of Everest. In part 1, we have seen Hillary and Tenzing set out for climbing the summit. Hillary and Tenzing drank boiled lemon juice and got ready for the expedition. They tested the oxygen cylinders. Hillary's boots were frozen with ice. He showed them over the fire and softened them. They put on 3 pairs of gloves on their hands and windproof clothes over their body. At 6:30, they moved out of the tent with their oxygen cylinders on their next backpack. Tenzing paved steps towards the ridge, and they reached the top of the ridge, which was about 28,000 feet. There the snow was soft over the ridge, and it made their route dangerous. Now let's go to the second part. Hillary and Tenzing finally reached firmer snow, higher up, and chipped steps up the last steep slope, cramponed onto the south peak. The snow was crystalline and firm, which means it was very hard. 2 or 3 blows of ice axe produced a large steps, enough for their high altitude boots. They felt comfortable belay. In this picture, you can see the ice axe and the boots. Hillary and Tenzing changed their roles, supporting one another. Using the ice axe, Hillary cut a 40-foot line of steps. Tenzing followed him while Hillary was at work. Then, in turn, Hillary would sink his shaft and put a few loops of the rope around it. And Tenzing, protected against a breaking step, would move up to Hillary. Thus, both of them changed their roles and belayed. The ridge continued with a giant ice cornices overhanging on the right and a steep rock slope on the left. As they cut around the back of one hump, another hump would swing into view. They felt it was a great thrill to look straight down the enormous rock face and to see 8,000 feet below the tiny tents of Camp 4 in the western CWM. Scrambling on the rocks, which means using their hands and knees, they moved on the rock to pass those difficult portions. CWM means an enclosed armchair-shaped hollow situated at the head of a valley. Here in this picture, the first picture, you can see the cornices. Cornices means overhanging mass of snow or ice along a ridge, shaped like the curling crest of a wave. You can see that in the picture. And the second one is CWM. And the third, you can see scrambling, which means moving with the help of hands and knees. Now, the overhanging ice cornices were very large, and to escape, they had to cut a line of steps down to where the snow met rocks on the west. Hillary cramponed backwards up the crack, praying that the cornice should not give way from the rock. It is just attached. Taking Tenzing to belay him as best as he could, he jammed his way into the crack. He sank the spikes, kicking backward deep into the frozen snow behind Tenzing. Finally, he dragged himself out of the crack onto a wide ledge. Taking advantage of every little rock hold and all the force of knee, shoulder, and arms he could muster, he literally cramponed backwards up the crack. You can see the picture, the cornice, praying that the cornice would remain attached to the rock. His progress, although was slow, but steady. As Tenzing paid out the rope, he inched his way upwards until he could reach over the top of the rock and drag himself out of the crack onto a wide ledge. The ridge had taken 2.5 hours for the mountaineers to climb. After reaching the top, for a few moments, Hilary relaxed, regaining his breath. He took a firm decision and signaled to Tenzing to come up. As Hilary pulled hard on the rope, Tenzing wriggled his way up the crack. He finally collapsed at the top like a fish hauled from the sea. It was a terrible struggle. The ridge continued as before. Giant cornices on the right, steep rock sloped on the left. You can see in this picture the structure of cornice. The ridge curved away to the right, and they had no idea where the top was. As he cut around the back of one hump, another higher one would swing into view. Time was passing and the ridge seemed never-ending. They had to cut hump after hump to move forward. Their original enthusiasm started fading because it was turning more into a grim struggle. Hilary looked upward and saw a narrow snow ridge rising up to the snowy summit. Tenzing and Hilary had a great sense of relief. There were no more steps to cut or ridges traverse, and no more humps lure them with the hope of success. In spite of the balaclava helmet, goggles, and oxygen mask, all covered with the icicles, he could not disguise his grin of delight. They shook hands and embraced each other. Tenzing threw his arms around Hilary. They thumped each other on their backs till they became breathless. Here in this picture, you can see the balaclava mask and the goggles, the old one as well as the new one. It was 11:30 a.m. They saw some unclimbed peaks like Makalu, Kanchenjunga, and some more peaks in Nepal. Here in this picture, you can see that Makalu and Kanchenjunga. We'll see the continuation of the next part of this lesson in the following class. Thank you, children. Thank you.